disagree because we were talking about this a little bit off air. It felt like perhaps not a playoff atmosphere in the barn.
I partially disagree. So I didn't get there for the pregame hoopla and the build up and the lead up and the whole show they do. I jumped into my seat like seconds after the anthem and the opening puck drop. So when I was standing in my seat, I thought that, I thought the volume was pretty good and I thought it was pretty lively. And then when the Stars got that first goal look, they went down 2-0, which is not the way you want to start game one of a playoff series. So if you take the crowd out of it a little bit as the road team, but I thought once they got that first goal, the building started to get jumping again. And then obviously Sagan adds the second. I thought in overtime, I don't know if you're talking about noise, but I was looking around the building. I did not see anybody sitting down the minute that first overtime began. And the nervous energy that was rolling around, and then the 4-minute power play, you could feel it build, and then the goalpost happened. And it's like, are we going to live to regret that one? And unfortunately, the Dallas Stars did. So I thought it was a great night in terms of hockey because of the roller coaster experience and the way that game went. You can feel the tension, you can feel the nervousness, but you could also feel the excitement at times that this could be a really good series. That's what I thought.
All right, Brian. So here's something I learned watching the national broadcast. Dallas has bad ice and Edmonton has the best ice. Can you explain why we have bad ice and the puck hops a lot here and Edmonton has perfectly smooth ice? Because that's the way they described it on the telecast. And I had no clue that we had bad ice. And why do we have bad ice?
So I'll go big picture on that first.
Okay.
There is such a thing as good ice and bad ice. There's actually times where the ice can feel soft and the puck won't travel as smooth, or it will hop, or passes will die before they get to a player. And there's a lot of different circumstances. Some of it's weather and things like that. Some of it is content within the water. There's actually a very interesting science behind ice and building ice. Here in Dallas or here in Texas, comparing this ice to an ice making facility in Edmonton, I'm sure somebody can point out discrepancies. And down here in Texas, the weather is significantly different right now than what's going on in parts of Canada. Having said that, I've heard the good ice and the bad ice excuse used multiple times by multiple different elements throughout my hockey broadcasting career. Didn't seem to be a problem for either team. Both teams have to play on the same sheet of ice. Both teams have to, is the bad ice the reason Dallas went 0 for 5 on the power play last night? Is the bad ice the reason Connor McDavid took a high sticking penalty on Matt Duchene and nearly cost his team the game with a 4-minute double minor? No. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Both teams play on the same sheet of ice. So at the end of the day, it comes down to whichever team can execute what they're trying to do better than the other. Good ice or bad ice.
Now, since you're just talking about the power play, obviously I know a lot of the focus is going to be on the double minor that you reference in the first overtime, but this is an Oilers team that penalty kill wise has been phenomenal in the playoffs. And the power plays before that for the Stars, before we got to overtime, they really seemed to struggle. And this is a power play, or this is a penalty kill unit for the Oilers that has been awesome in the playoffs.
Yes, and it felt like the storylines leading up to this was Dallas is the deeper team, Edmonton is the top-heavy team, and just keep Edmonton off the power play. Peter DeBoer, for the 2 days leading up to this series, was adamant in trying to explain this is a team that also has depth, and this is a team that is not a one-trick pony. Like Edmonton has the best record in the Western Conference since January 1st through the end of the regular season. You don't do that with two players and one defensive pairing. When you're this far into the playoffs in any sport, all four teams have a claim to the throne. Like that's just the way it is. Because they're all very good teams. And so I think the Dallas Stars maybe took a little bit of a cold soup serving last night that, yeah, Edmonton's in a penalty killing groove right now. I thought Dallas's power plays got better as the game went along. They were clearly adjusting to the penalty kill unit they were dealing with. But Edmonton, I think they've killed off their last 14 or 15 straight penalties right now. Yep. They are in one of those grooves. So Dallas is going to have to make some adjustments. They were making adjustments throughout the game. It felt like that double minor in overtime. They were dangerous. They had some looks. So there's some adjustments there that Dallas is making on the fly. But you could also say it was a little too late to go 0 for 5 in a playoff game and not have a power play goal.
Here's how you ask a critical question nicely.
Oh.
Who needs to improve their play from game 1 to game 2 for the Dallas Stars?
I'm gonna slightly steer the question in a different direction.
All right. I didn't ask it as well as I hoped. Dang it.
No. I look at it slightly different.
Okay.
I really think the return of Roope Hintz could be big. If it's game 2, Peter DeBoer, I just came from Stars Media. Peter DeBoer said he's skating and he's a possibility for game 2. We'll see how realistic of a possibility it is tomorrow. But I do think if they can get Roope Hintz back in the lineup, it puts everybody back in their slot. It puts Matt Duchene between Mason Marchment and Tyler Seguin again, if Peter DeBoer wants to go that way. It puts Wyatt Johnston, Logan Stankoven, and Jamie Benn back together again, if Peter DeBoer wants to go that way. If he wants to go back to Roope Robertson and Joe Pavelski again, you can go back to the secret sauce that has worked all year. You can continue to shift and move things around as you had to do in the Vegas series and in the Colorado series, and you've had those dividends pay off. It's not like this is a panic thing or a scramble mode for Peter DeBoer's lineup, but I do think adding Roope Hintz back into the lineup can put everything back into its normal slot. Dallas and their full depth is back at the level that they have built this entire run on. And you're dealing with a very fast team in Edmonton, and Roope Hintz is a player who's built on speed. So you have that extra element that you can push back on Edmonton with. Plus, we just talked about the power play struggles. Roope Hintz is a power play player.
Yep.
If he returns, Wyatt Johnston goes back to the second power play unit. And now you have 2 dangerous elements again when you have the man advantage. So it's not a direct answer to your question, Bass, but I get what you're saying. Where can Dallas get the extra contribution? I think the return of Roope Hintz sets up a lot of other players to try and provide that.
Clearly, the numbers would say he played very well, but this has been a tough postseason at times for Stuart Skinner. What did you think about the job that he did yesterday?
He was good, man. He was. I thought Edmonton last night received everything they needed to steal a game on the road. They needed their big players to deliver, and that's exactly what happened. McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl, and they needed to get a good performance out of Stuart Skinner. And that's exactly what they got. It also helps their penalty kill was fantastic in shutting Dallas down. But Edmonton got what they needed from the 2 areas they needed it most to steal one on the road. That's exactly what they did. I thought he was good. I thought Jake Ottinger had to be more dynamic and make more dangerous saves, but Stuart Skinner gave them a chance to win and kept that game even essentially until the big guns could get the goal they needed.
When you're talking about McDavid, Draisaitl, what did you think about Bouchard as well? Because that's somebody, when he puts a point on the board, it seems to be a huge thing for Edmonton in the playoffs. Obviously got the assist to McDavid in overtime. What do you think about him as a player and then him yesterday?
He's developing into a nice little player. I think you could look at him in a similar vein that we look at Thomas Harley on the Dallas side. Not the same kind of player, but a young player emerging into an expanded role. That's what Thomas Harley did last year for Dallas in the playoffs. It's kind of what Evan Bouchard is doing right now, and he's known for that shot, the Bouch bomb as they call it. But he's obviously he could be a nice little find for them. And he set up the McDavid goal, jumping up into the play and making the pass when this is a guy who's known for that heavy shot. I think we're going to learn a lot about Evan Bouchard and maybe the Edmonton defense and where it's at for them as a unit as this series rolls along. Because that's been the knock on Edmonton. Do they have enough on the back end and in net to supplement and give that offense a chance to win hockey games and win a series? If Evan Bouchard can turn into that nice all-around player that gives them things at 200 feet of ice or both ends of the ice, you might have just solved one of your defensive question marks internally and given yourself some defensive depth. And that could be huge for them. But also, let's see what happens over a potentially 6 or 7 game series against a team the caliber of Dallas to see where exactly that Edmonton defensive core and that Edmonton goaltending is at right now.
Okay, Brian, here comes my hockey brain in. And you can disagree and say, Mike, you got to watch more. You got to watch more hockey, dude.
I predict he disagrees with you.
All right, ready?
You do need to watch more hockey, period.
2 things that I thought the Stars were not good at in game 1 that they were very good at in the first 2 rounds. 1, it felt like they lost every face-off. And I know they didn't lose all of them, but it felt like it. And then 2, it felt like when we were crossing the blue line trying to have possession, we struggled tremendously crossing the blue line with possession and some sort of attacking mode. Which one is more fixable? And if I'm wrong on both of those, say, Mike, no, we were good at doing that last night. You just don't know what the hell you're talking about.
No, I'm impressed, man. You've come a long way. You're looking good. Now you're wearing a Mavs jersey today. It's got to be a Stars jersey tomorrow.
I wore my Stars Jordans yesterday.
He did.
All right.
It didn't matter.
All right.
Still peed away game 1.
Yeah, the face-off thing, it could be timely face-offs at times to go double dip there. Dallas is one of the better face-off teams in the NHL, and there have been games where, yes, they've absolutely dominated. And the face-off, think of it as an internal battle within a game, the same way of a single at-bat between a pitcher and a batter. Pitcher may get owned in the first at-bat, but he's going to adjust into the second at-bat, and he may alter the way he pitches that player. It's the same thing on faceoffs. If a guy or a team or struggles in the faceoff circle, he may make some slight adjustments or some different approaches into game 2, and now all of a sudden he's having a great game on the faceoff dot. So, and then timeliness comes to be a part of that as well. You may finish 50-50 or you may win the faceoff battle overall in the game, but if you lose the faceoff on the penalty kill that gives up the power play goal that loses the game, that's the focus. So we'll see if Dallas can be a little bit better in terms of timely faceoff wins. The entering the offensive zone with possession, or clean zone entries, as a lot of teams like to call it. There's been a lot of talk today. Peter DeBoer mentioned the neutral zone, and whether it's Dallas managing the puck through the neutral zone and feeding Edmonton's rush counterattack, or getting clean through the neutral zone, which leads to clean zone entries. And both of these teams are really good off the rush. And entering the zone clean is going to feed a rush attack, right? So the first thing both of these teams want to take away from the other is a rush attack, which is entering the zone clean. So you basically spotted what is probably the number 1 or number 2 scouting point that both of these teams have against the other. We will see what adjustments Dallas can make through the neutral zone and how they manage the puck, whether that's choosing to hold it themselves, whether that's choosing to make a pass off to somebody else, or if the clean zone entry that you're talking about, Bass, isn't there, that's when you chip it in behind the defenseman and you have to go chase it. And I know some people are scared of dump and chase hockey, but if there's 3 guys stacked across the blue line that are not going to give you a clean entry, that's the only option you have, and you have to chip it in. So we'll see what Dallas does in terms of trying to enter the offensive zone and what adjustments they make from that first game.
Outstanding stuff. I can definitely see why you won an Emmy. Thank you very much for
one of these days.
It was Sevy. I rode Sevy's coattails to the Emmy.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
I call
to get
it
the hard
pump
way.
and dump because sometimes you'd like it just nice and clean. Sometimes you just have to dump it in there.
If you're going to be Hockey Mike, it's dump and chase. That's the term.
Okay. All right.
He's not going to allow you to
lingo,
change
man.
these terms.
No, you're right. You're right. Pump and dump is something else, but I like saying it that way.
Thank you very much, good sir. We will catch up with you again next week unless what Mike just said scares you away. Hopefully that will not be the case, and we'll catch up with you next week.
I've stuck with you this long. I'm not backing off that easy. Enjoy the weekend, boys.